Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our weekly Q&A live stream. I say weekly Q&A live stream like we didn't spend 2 hours wagging our tongues about absolute nonsense during the watch along. Nonetheless, it's good to be back. We're here to do a wee kind of transfer update Q&A stream. We have a wee bit to catch up on today, but it's been mostly quiet. You know, it's been a quiet day for Celtic. There's not been an awful lot of movement on the transfer front. In fact, the main story in the bulletin is about someone who won't be joining the club, but it's all quiet in the Western Front. I'd assume that Celtic are working hard on trying to get the Shin Yamada deal completed, perhaps Giuseppe Ambrosino completed, perhaps a few of these other players who have been linked with us maybe completed. It is a quiet day, but we're going to get talking about it. I'm going to listen to all your complaints. I'm going to listen to all your theories, and we're going to try and digest everything. And I'm going to try and give you my opinions on things as well. I'll try and sprinkle some of that in there. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. I see that I'm already getting somewhat of a reaction for the new training talk. Listen, I don't care. I love it. I agree with Stephen. I think it's class. I think it's a fantastic. Yes, it's a bit disco ball like. This should have been the third shirt, in my opinion. I love this shirt, and I got it yesterday. Couldn't help myself. Thank you to Connor for the early donation, by the way. Apparently, Shin Yamada is a done deal. Hope not. Very optimistic from Connor, but thank you for the donation. And we'll probably talk about Shin Yamada throughout this stream. However, we should probably lead with the main story that I put in the title of tonight's stream, because we know that the Shin Yamada deal is sort of concluding in the background. We don't really know any status update beyond that, and we don't know the status of where his role in the squad will be beyond that until Brendan Rodgers comments firsthand. But somebody that won't be joining Celtic this summer, it seems like anyway, will be Isaac Jansson, who has dominated the transfer discussion for the last couple of days, in particular on our channel here. He was emerged as a winger target in replacement of Nicholas Kuhn, but it's now come out that the update is he will not be joining Celtic. In fact, he is off to France, and there's a few things around that story which we do need to cover. So here was the update earlier this morning it was a joint report from Anthony Joseph and in Sky Sports in Italy via Luca Bendoni that Nice are closing in on signing Rapid Vienna winger Isaac Jansson. And it turns out overall, after everything that we went through yesterday with conflicting reports and one journalist saying something and one journalist saying the other, £9 million plus add-ons. Revealed on Monday that Celtic had made an inquiry, but it's believed the clubs were far apart on valuation. Celtic not in the mix for him here. He looks as though he's gone to Nice. In fact, later reports throughout the day and throughout this evening have suggested that he's now a medical away from signing for Nice, and that has sparked some discussion. The end of discussion here is, lads, Isaac Jansson won't be coming to Celtic this summer. He's not going to be the Nicholas Kuhn replacement, and I actually doubt if Celtic even made a bid, to be honest. And this is why, because I'm seeing this, and I agree with this, by the way. I will say I agree with it, but I want to bring up a comment which has been one of the main things that has been flying around on social media today. And I've lost the comment, but I seen somebody saying, you know, 9 million, and it's embarrassing that Celtic only went in with a 3 million offer. I can't find the comment now. It's suddenly disappeared from my screen. And I get that. If that is true, fair enough. It is embarrassing. However, and I'm not discrediting any journalists here. That's not what I do on this channel. I'm not discrediting anybody or saying that somebody has spouted nonsense or that what they've said is false. But the same journalist that reported that Celtic had submitted an offer of around 3 million was the same journalist that said the 9 million was nonsense, and that sources close to the situation said it was utterly ridiculous. It's not that utterly ridiculous now that the story is a fee of £9 million has been agreed. So I'm now starting to even doubt that Celtic put in any form of bid. And even if they did, they would have been laughed out straight away. And Nice had already trumped this. Also, another report that I've seen coming out of France this evening, once again, it all comes down to what you believe and it comes down to subjectivity. But one of the reports is Celtic, that Isaac Jansson himself didn't want Celtic. He wanted Nice. That's where he wanted to go. So I get the frustration that's coming from it because we've let a target get away and all the rest of it. But Celtic can't, and I'm not excusing anybody at the club here. I'm not excusing the board because they have to be better at business. They have to get the ball rolling. They have to be serious in this window. They need to act with a seriousness around them. I'm not excusing anybody before anybody accuses me of doing that. But what I am saying is Celtic can't be at fault for the player wanting to go to Nice. And I don't blame him wanting to go to Nice. It's a big club in France, in the south coast. Have you been to Nice? I'm lucky. I can say I have been. It's a beautiful city. Absolutely beautiful. Where would I like to go? East End of Glasgow or the French south coast? I think I know what I'd be choosing. So it's really a no-brainer. For him, he'll be getting a big wage, probably more than he was going to get at Celtic. Lads, I get that there is some frustration, but you've got to put your frustration in the right places. You've got to also balance it with a sense of realism. You know, not everything that goes wrong in this window will be down to the club's fault or wrongdoing. Some of it will be, obviously, and we'll talk about that very honestly when it comes. But it seems like this was something that was never going to happen for Celtic. God, we only got, like, some people have thrown the toys out the pram about this situation when we only heard of him for the first time on fucking Friday. I had never heard of Isaac Jansson in my life before Friday. And there's some people on Twitter throwing their toys out the pram because Celtic aren't getting him. I've seen a lot of the conversation being that Celtic should have been in battling with Nice around this price tag, which number one would have been pointless because, as I said, apparently he wanted to move to Nice. But number two, right, and this is one of the other points, and I said this on social media earlier today. I already put up a tweet about this, so some people will probably know my opinions already. I don't think this is a £9 million player. I'm not gutted about missing out on Isaac Jansson. And in fact, if you go back and watch my videos, sorry, I was just checking something. If you go back and watch my videos, if you go back and watch the live streams, when we were talking about Isaac Jansson, I was like, yeah, it looks fine. I'd happily take him. But I wasn't overly thrilled. And I wouldn't have spent £9 million on a guy who scored 10 goals and assisted 7 at Rapid Vienna. I wouldn't. And that's that. I think there's better options out there. I think that Celtic should be looking into better options. I think that Sondre Orjeseter looks like a better option. I'd rather him. And there's plenty of wingers across this continent that could probably come in and be more impressive on the surface. At the end of the day, stats don't say everything, and he'll probably go do okay at Nice. But I'm not going to put on full outrage. I'm not going to pretend that I'm gutted about missing out on him, because I'm not. I don't think he's a £9 million player, and I think if some of you were losing the rag at paying £9 million for Adam Ida, I'll tell you this right now with a straight face: Adam Ida was more of a £9 million player than this guy. And he had the stats to prove it. And he had the experience at Celtic to prove it. This guy doesn't. I honestly, I'm not bothered. And I think a lot of it is outrage because of how maybe slow the window's been. And that is understandable. We are in need of good news. And I think that is where the frustrations kind of spawns from. I don't think people mean it to come across in a sense that they're pissed off that Isaac Jansson's not coming. I think it inadvertently comes across because of the slow window and the nature of how this window is painting out. People are getting nervous and frustrated about the window unfurling in a familiar way that we've seen before. And that's perfectly understandable. But you've got to learn to voice your discontent towards the right areas. And listen, he's away to Nice. See how he goes. He won't be a Celtic player. Apparently Celtic was never... The exact words were, I'm reading the report right now, according to the Swedish Daily Expressen, he is now one medical away from signing for Nice, and it's further claimed that a move to Celtic, in quotation, was never an option for him. Was never an option. £8.6 million is the fee being touted. And he's not going to be a Celtic player, ladies and gents. There you go. There's the big story for today. We'll get into some comments about it. And that's that. Yeah, finished. I guess there's no need for any further kind of discussion beyond that, to be honest, because it's came and gone. As I said, it started on Friday, it ends today on Wednesday. It didn't even last a week. So don't pretend you're heartbroken about it. Celtic now need to turn their attention to getting wingers in the club. We're hearing a lot about Balak Wisha now. One of the big stories, and here's the next story we'll kind of transition on to before I get into the Q&A. We are hearing rumours and reports in Belgium that he wasn't at training today with Antwerp. One could only assume that's because he's ready to complete the move. I like to think that's the reason, suddenly not turning up to training. You know, there is rumours going around that might be because of injury. It could be any. You know, it's speculation is speculation. However, if he was injured, I'm still sure he would be there in some capacity to get scans or work done or whatever, unless he's somehow fell down the stairs and broke his leg this moment. You know, I doubt he's had a very big injury that has caused them to not happen. So there's no real further concrete update with Michel-Ange Balikwisha as of yet. Hoping that we get more on that by Friday. I said I was quite confident of that happening, maybe by not the full transfer happening by Friday, but the next major update coming by then. So we'll wait and see what happens there. And aside from that, as I said, it's been a very, very quiet day. So that's that. You know, I'm seeing people talking about Willie. What is this? You're trying to get me with this, aye? Nearly caught me out. A Willie Bulger. That's got to be a wind up. A Willie Bulger. That has got to be. The fact Mackenzie's saying it makes me think that it might be true, but I don't think it is. A Willie Bulger. I'm not buying that one for two. Let me see. Let's see. A Willie Bulger. Aye, I thought so. William Bulger, educator and former president of the Massachusetts Senate, died in... Oh, he's not died yet. He's 91. Good going for him. Big hard man. Anyway, yeah, not too much coming out of things from today. And yeah, let's get into the Q&A, I suppose, shall we? Because it is a quiet night and I would rather listen to your guys' opinions and hear your thoughts and give my thoughts to it. Geez, my eyes can't handle that shot. Going to have to dim the colour down the TV. Don't worry, Mark. You only have me for around 20 more minutes or so. I'm sure you could do with 20 more minutes, to be quite honest. Shout out to Cal, by the way. Go and give it a watch. I've not watched it yet, but I have seen all the trailers and all the rest of it and all the promotion on social media, and I will be giving it a watch, Cal. If you want to go and see our good man and channel Faithful Cal here, starring on the iPlayer, then go and check him out. Last Pundit Standing. I'm looking forward to giving it a watch, to be quite honest. Right, let's get into the questions and such. Rayan saying, really think signing a striker is the main priority right now, and the options we're linked to don't look great on paper. Said after Kyogo left, replacing him is not replacing him will be a suicidal mistake. I agree. I think that a striker is of paramount importance to Celtic. However, here are my couple of points on top of that. I think that number one, Giuseppe Ambrosino looks good. I know he might not have this kind of standout, amazing goal record, but I think he looks good. I think he's got aspects of his game that show that he's going to be a good player in the future. Maybe we want a player for the now. That's the problem. But I also think that there's a bit of calm to take from the situation because we know that we can start the season with Dyson Maeda up front. I 100% agree we need to get a striker signed. But if we go into the game against St Mirren with Dyson Maeda through the middle, whatever combination of wingers on the left or right, I think we'll be fine. But we need to get somebody in and settled for the European qualifiers. We need to get somebody in and settled for the derby and those European games that will quickly follow after the first international break. Yeah, I listen, we need to get it done. But I still have a little bit of calm in knowing that Maeda will be fine for the first game if it gets to that. I'm hoping Celtic don't allow it to get to that, to be quite honest. It looks as though they're going to have Shin Yamada through the door any minute now, or any day now. So it looks as though we are getting somebody. Whether or not you think he's good enough, that's down to your own prerogative, I suppose. I personally I'm not too thrilled about Shin Yamada on the surface. I think that Ambrosino excites me a bit more, but he had that big standout season in the J League in the 2024 campaign, which proves there is a goal-scoring player in there. It's just about Celtic being able to unlock it or not. So I'm not saying I don't have faith. Just say I'm not thrilled by it on the surface. I see that Evan Ferguson is getting a move to Roma of all places. I'm glad that can maybe be done and dusted. I've fed up with people going on about Evan Ferguson as if there was ever a sliver of a chance. But I see he's meant to be going over there now. On touching on the point of the Yamada signing, Liam has said, I don't see the point in the Yamada signing. Rather give Kenny another shot or Osmond. No point bringing in another striker unless the first team ready, improving quality over quantity. So a lot of different schools of thought when it comes to the striker situation. Some people more willing to give the likes of Kenny or Osmond the chances. But then obviously there's people that would reply to that saying, no way, we can't start a season with them getting chances. There's no winning. There's going to be such a divide in the Celtic support. But I can hear out both sides. I'll tell you that for free. I can hear out both sides. I'm a fence sitter. You know, I'm a fence sitter. Alistair saying, Louis Barry, $3.5 million, do a deal. I like the thought of Louis Barry in surface. I said that last year. I think he would be okay, but I think there's better players out there. I wouldn't mind him being considered as an option for Celtic, but we'll wait and see. Mark saying, I'm frustrated again that we still haven't got a physical midfielder. Been years now, not had one since Bruni. And I suppose going into this window, there was talk of a couple of physical midfielders. You know, we spoke about a couple at the tail end of last season who were linked. Who were kind of lower league-esque players, not lower league in terms of like League One in Scotland, but I think we had the big fella out of the Ligue 2 in France. I think there was somebody maybe in the second division of Italy as well that was linked at a point. They didn't really scream first-team Celtic players to me. But apart from that, we've not really had any chat about it at all. I just don't think to the club right now, it seems like a priority. It seems like there is plenty of other areas, but I know that's one thing that a lot of fans have cried for in particular. I think if I was to, I would like a physical midfielder. I would, but I think it would be lower down on my list of requests for this summer window. Anyway, thank you to I'm terrible with the Irish names. I feel shocking. Is it Finn? 99 cents though. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very much helping the channel, and God bless you for doing so. Ellie, I think I still agree. My priority is the left centre back position. You know, we could talk about strikers, we could talk about wingers, we could talk about defensive midfielders. The fact that we've got to this point in the window and we still haven't signed a first team centre half for me is still a bit shocking. And the fact that even the two we've spoke about in the last couple of days, Justin De Haas and Etienne Ute, the two of them, I don't think there's much in those stories to say that, right, there's been no talk of a Celtic bid. There's been no talk of actual movement on those players. Those are players that have just been linked with the club. With Justin De Haas, it's somebody that Celtic were considering. And with Etienne Ute, it's Celtic amongst a number of European clubs that are looking at him. There's been nothing to say that Celtic have actually made a bid for any of these players. And none of the stuff in the stories suggests to me that's going to come in the next couple of days, which is shocking to me because I feel like that is the priority. I just feel like we need to bring in another one. I like Austin Trusty. I think there's a player in there that he just needs to unlock a confidence in his game, but you can't go into another European campaign relying on that. And Liam Scales is Liam Scales. So yeah, listen, I hope something comes out in the next couple of days. I agree with Elliot. For me, that's the priority. As I said, going into the first game of the season, I'm fine with Dyson Maeda playing through the middle. In fact, if I was to lay out the team right now on a graphic for you, right? If I was to pick my 11 for the first game of the season, right? Kasper Schmeichel in goals, Alistair Johnston. We don't know if Vickers will be back yet, but let's just say hypothetically Vickers was back. Vickers, the glaring obvious improvement that's needed, Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, Arne Engels, front three of Maeda, Nygren and Balak Wisha, say if he comes in. There's one obvious position in that team for me that needs an improvement to the starting 11, and it's left centre half. That's it for me. And it has been for weeks. But we still, of course, need signings on top of that. You know, we need a couple of signings, not just a left centre half. But we'll wait and see. It's got to be a very big week coming up for Celtic. If we go into the weekend without any real concrete movement in terms of like somebody's coming over for a medical, next week is going to be huge in terms of the support, because the support are already getting tired and already getting nervous. Next week, it will get even more tiresome. It'll get even more nerve-wracking. And that will be a big, big week for Celtic, to say the least. Let's see, what else can we go through? Anything on Malacia? I said it about 17 times during our match reaction yesterday. There's nothing in that story. And that's not me saying nothing will come from the story, but the whole thing was Celtic offered him for 3 million. Celtic weren't offered him for 3 million. He was offered out for 3 million to a number of clubs that may have included Celtic. And even at that, there is nothing to suggest that actually did happen. So nothing in the story. I wouldn't knock him back. Just don't think that it'll happen. CM67, unlikely Negren will play right wing under Rodgers, surely. More of a Matt O'Reilly style midfielder. We don't know. I don't know what the manager's thinking. I've said, I feel like I sound like a broken record, and I don't mean to sound boring, but I don't know what Brendan Rodgers is thinking. I don't know what he wants to do with him. We know that it's a guy that was naturally a right winger that got turned into an attacking midfielder over the past 12 months. He can play both. It looks as though he was doing a bit better at the attacking midfield sort of role. So we just don't know what Brendan Rodgers has in store for him. That's the manager's choice. And one of the things that's really, annoyed me about the last kind of few days is the lack of understanding around how a transfer window and transfers at a football team work. A lot of people just don't get it and they can't wrap their head around it, and then they throw their outrage out. And that's not how it works, I seen a tweet earlier that was somebody saying, "What's Brendan Rodgers doing? What's he doing? He's training the team. He's doing his job. It's not Brendan Rodgers' job to be sitting in an office scrolling through a football manager database to look for players. That's why we hire scouts. We hire other players. Rodgers gets the final say usually on the yes or no. You'd like to hope so. Some of them we might not, like Inamura. But that's Rodgers' job. Is how much time do you think's in a day for Brendan Rodgers? He works a 9 to 5 like the rest of us. He's got a team to train. Thank you, Matthew, for the donation. £5. People need to remember that there's still 2 months left of the window. And yeah, listen, once again, I wholeheartedly agree and understand where some of the anxiety is coming from, because it's right to be anxious. But we're still a side that is very well equipped with a month and a half at the very least coming in left in the window. So, I'm not at the point of throwing the Sharks yet, to be quite honest. I'm fairly calm, and I'm fairly optimistic. And I've seen a lot of comments, people say, I tip my hat to you, Ryan, because I don't know how you do it. Listen, Celtic are in a very good place. We wouldn't have won a double last year if we weren't, Let's see what else. Last season we hadn't signed one outfield player to the third competitive game. We're only 2 games into the preseason and already 5 signings in, with another 2 set to come. Not a bad start to the window. See how just different schools of thought, just different. I like it when people can look at things with a little bit of perspective, and I think that, I don't know what it has. It's more in recent years that I think that has happened. I feel like there's been a psychological shift and how a transfer window should work. And God forbid, I wasn't alive back in the day when transfer windows didn't exist and you could just sign anybody whenever you wanted. I don't know if it was the same back then, but it feels like every day. I don't know if it's this attention span problem that is just kind of rifling its way through society in general. But people are expecting something every day. Boom, 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 boom. And it just doesn't work like that. This isn't a video game. This isn't a simulation. It's real life. And, I feel like it's very, very recent. I really don't remember the same impatience back in 2016, 2017 when I started this journey. And it's nuts because Celtic have been so dominant. But there is just such an impatience. And that's not me saying that we shouldn't be worried about things. Of course we should. But I just think that there is such a rush for things to get done. And to be honest, if you want my absolute honest opinion, I would rather Celtic done their homework right. I'd rather they had players that they scouted extensively and made a very calculated decision about, rather than just going, get them. That'll keep the fans happy. Get them. I'd rather that. I would. And right now, I'm happy with how the windows went. I just want that next big movement. I think that's what we're all kind of wanting. So we'll wait and see. Kieran Tierney, big prospect, Kieran Tierney. I think there's a lot of chat again about Miovski in our live chat. God knows how we've got here. You know me, as Alistair says, don't rate him. Don't rate him at all. I think this is what the main thing is, though. Liam, you're right, and this is what I'm saying. There's always room to be anxious because things move very, very quickly. Before you know it, you're staring at the first Champions League game. And I would like to hope that Celtic have been doing work in preparation for this point in time we're at now. And I think a lot of people just feel kind of let down sometimes, and it's understandable. It is understandable. I feel like I just sound like the ultimate fence sitter tonight, but I've always made it my aim never to come on here and moan and shout for a performance, because this isn't a performative channel. This isn't a drama channel. I give you how I'm really feeling. And see, when I press end stream tonight and I'm sitting here playing Football Manager, I'm not going to be sitting here biting my nails over Celtic signings. I'm not. So I wouldn't put it on in front of a camera for you, to be quite honest. Do you see Brendan signing a new deal? That's obviously a big topic. It's coming up this week with the state of the window and how things are panning out. Honestly, I am starting to get a little bit nervous because I just don't feel like there's enough being said in this window to suggest that Brendan's getting the backing he feels entitled to, and he is entitled to it. So I'm a wee bit nervous, but I think if we can end this window strongly, I think the conversations will start. And I think that's what, look, listen, the priority at Celtic right now, and this is what people are getting all, conspiracy theorists and all the rest of it. The priority at Celtic this summer isn't for a Brendan Rodgers contract. It's to get the players in through the door. Then the attention will turn to the conversations with Brendan Rodgers. Until then, the club have work to do on the pitch. And then the priority will shift. Something I've seen that I wanted to bring up. Do you know what? This is something that has been so overlooked for me in this window, right? Something that has been so overlooked for me in this window. That is basically like a signing in itself. The fact that, and I touch Heronwood, and I really do not want to jinx this. I'll go off stream and there'll be a fucking story tonight about somebody bidding for one of the two of them. If you gave me the opportunity to keep both Rio Hatate and Dyson Maeda in this summer window, that was as good as a signing for me. As good as two signings for me. I thought they were gone. I had no hope that Rio Hatate or Dyson Maeda would be here coming into this season. And yet, still a long way to go. We don't know what's going to happen. But the quiet chatter is non-existent at the minute. I'm knocking over bottles. It's non-existent. And that is such a positive in itself. But I guess that's something that we'll revisit come the end of September because things can change very, very quickly. Thank you to Mary for the donation. Mary McKenzie, appreciate it. Love the profile picture, by the way. I was a big fan of Cat. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. God bless. And I hope you're enjoying the stream. A lot of talk about the Visca and stuff. I've got about 5 or so more minutes. If you want any questions desperately answered or anything, please get them in, and we'll get it covered. And we'll talk about it. Should we have signed Visca? We had a very extensive conversation about this last night on stream, and I'm going to reiterate it now. I think we'll see maybe why Celtic didn't pull the trigger on Visca. I think it was an active decision of the club not to sign him. Clearly, they made that decision. I might be wrong in that. I'm speculating. But I think they've made the decision for a reason. I think that he's went to Norwich City. For a guy who was linked to Eintracht Frankfurt, to Celtic, to top teams in France, to other top teams in Germany, to end up at Norwich City, I think there might be a reason for that. That's just my theory. That is my theory, personally. Thank you as well for being a member for 5 months, Mary. Legend. Appreciate that. Right, a few more before we get out of here. To be quite honest, I'm fucking roasting up in this loft. I need to crack the window open before I pass out. Did you see the club is looking at ending their ties with Alina Sadiku? Apparently, they have reached out to the Dutch manager Annie Dippy. Nice. Is this the new... This Rikos clips me once because we have a nice thing going on. It's always been a thing with me and Rikos, and now all you think you can get going on it. Now you all think. Guess some new pattern. Save it for Rikos. Thank you, Alistair, for the donations. I want Rodgers to commit before the start of the league. I'd love that too, Alistair, but it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And it never was going to, I don't think. I said it's not the priority this summer because there will have been talks. There will have been murmurs. Rodgers would have... We're not daft. We know that they're talking. We know that they're good mates. We know that Rodgers is probably in communication with Michael Nicholson, Peter Lawwell all the time. There will have been murmurs. But I think there would have been an agreement between them all. Look, we'll leave it till after the summer. The club have a duty to improve the team before anything else. And then they'll move on to that. I would love them to commit before the start of the league, Alistair, but I think it will come after, to be honest. And once again, and I just want to reiterate a point that the manager has had to reiterate a number of times over the past 6 months specifically. Nobody knows what Brendan Rodgers is thinking. And there's no point in pretending that we do or you do. People speculating that he's already done this or already decided that. Unless you're his brother or his immediate family or his missus, hello Mrs. Rodgers if you're watching, you don't have a Scooby. None of us do. Rodgers knows, and that's it. And he might change his mind. Either way, you never know. Right, a couple more, and then we'll go and then we'll go off because we have crossed that half-hour mark. Thank you to everybody who is tuned in this evening. It is very much appreciated. This is a big one that's came out after his performance last night. Do you think we should keep Inamura or loan him because his performance was amazing? I love this. I love our supporters. I do. We're one of a kind, and this isn't obviously targeted at you, really. It's not, of course it's not, and it's not targeted towards anybody in particular. But it was so funny that this time 26 hours ago, Hayato Inamura was the cause of such outrage amongst some Celtic fans. Not me. I wasn't outraged. I didn't give a toss. Didn't give a monkeys. He was the cause of so much outrage. So many podcasters questioning what we were doing. So many fans questioning the signing policy. So many fans questioning this, that, and the next thing. It was a disgrace. And now we've got Celtic supporters going on about how he looks like this great player and he should have all this time in the pre-season and how we shouldn't get rid of him and all the rest of it. We really are a one-of-a-kind support. You know that? We really are a one-of-a-kind support. There's nobody like us. I'm chuffed that he played well last night. I'm glad that he's so far shut a lot of people up. But what I will also add to that is it was a pre-season friendly against Cork City. There's a lot more to do to evaluate where he's at as a player, and then we'll go from there. I wouldn't mind the thought of him getting loaned out because I think that going out on loan is better than sitting there doing nothing, because realistically he's going to sit there and do nothing. So we'll wait and see what the manager fancies. It was nice to give him a glowing review after the game last night, but I just think that our support is just so funny at times. Right, thank you for tuning in this evening. It has been a pleasure spending the last half hour with you. We'll be back as soon as there's any news to talk about. And I've decided, last minute announcement, I might just do a watch along for the game on Saturday. I was thinking about it today. I was thinking about it today. I've enjoyed them, and even though it's a behind closed doors boring affair against a team that I've never heard of, I think it would still be a good laugh, and it's nice to bring the community together. So I'll keep you updated on my decision to do that or not over the next couple of days. But until I talk to you next time, and until the next update, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. God bless. I'll see you all next time.